after he finished, because I'm just laying on my stomach with my bum out, he grabs the blanket from my bed and he just awkwardly like pulls it over my bum. Jingle bell. Happy Vlogmas, everyone. I'm still not feeling fab, so I asked on Instagram what you guys wanted to see that I could film that would be like, you know, maybe a little bit easier for me today, and you wanted a story time. I came up with 2 amazing story times. One I'm going to be telling you today is my horrible doctor/hospital experience from the last week with my kidney infection, with something really funny as well. And then another story time about I'll keep it as a surprise, but Steph wants to be in on this story time, so when she comes over in a couple days we're going to film it together. So yeah, today we're going to be talking about my horrible doctor/hospital experience from the last week. Just to fill you guys in who don't know, because I've mentioned on Instagram stories and I've mentioned on here, but like I know not everyone watches everything, so maybe you're not sure, but also just some like all kinds of crazy stuff happened. So at the start of last week I was feeling really off, just like really flat, kind of like, you know, depressed, not depressed, but you know, that's like a long-term thing, but you know when you're just like really like emotional and just like flat and just feeling really off. And I'd got some like heavy news that weekend, so I thought that, you know, that was it, and I was like, but I don't understand, like that shouldn't be making me feel quite this bad, because the heavy news, like I'd accepted, like, you know, it wasn't anything crazy, and it's not related to me either. It was about someone else. And like, you know, so I was just really confused like why I was feeling so off. So on the Monday I went and I got myself a massage to try and feel better. A few hours later, bam, I can tell I have a UTI, and it is an extremely painful one. I used to get really painful UTIs when I was younger, and then I hadn't had them in ages. I got 2 earlier this year and they weren't that painful. It was just like frequently needing to pee. They weren't super painful ones. But this was the worst it had been in a long time, and I was like, fuck, like I don't know what to do. I had so much urine. I think you call it something different in the US for my US followers, but it basically just like it neutralizes your pee, and like the stuff in your pee that makes it like burn and sting when you're peeing. So I had way too much of that, and it just wasn't helping. So I got the home doctor to come out because it was in the evening and I wanted to be able to get on some antibiotics ASAP. So the home doctor came over really quickly. He was really good. We just did a dipstick thing, so he was able to tell like, yep, you've got a UTI and you've got like blood in your urine. You can't see it, but like, you know, with the dipstick it picks up on stuff like that. But it's like in the morning I would recommend that you go to you know, your actual doctor and get a proper test done as well, just so they can find out what bacteria it is, just to make sure that these are the right antibiotics. Now the antibiotics he wanted to give me I couldn't take because I'm allergic to them, so he gave me Alpram, which is the last one I had last time I had a UTI. Anyway, that was Monday. Had the antibiotics, went to the doctors on Tuesday. I had to get my other test results. All my STD results came back negative, so all good there. I don't want to say clean because that implies that if someone has an STD they're dirty. Mine came back negative, so no problems there, which is lucky for me. So then when I was there I was like, oh, also I have a UTI. The home doctor said I need to get just a proper test just to make sure I'm on the right antibiotics. So I did that, and the test obviously takes a few days to come back. I'm using the power of positive thinking to try and make myself feel better, but what I did on that Tuesday was I started throwing up like crazy, and I think it's because I overdosed on the Ural. I had way too much. If I have it, it kind of gives me an upset tummy as it is, but I had just so much because it just wasn't really helping. So I was also like, oh, can I get some anti-nausea medication too, please? Because I was just super sick, had to cancel my clients. Then again, using the power of positive thinking, I hate being sick. I like to, in my mind, just be like, tomorrow I'm going to wake up and I'm going to feel fine. Tomorrow I'm going to wake up, I'm going to feel fine. And a lot of the time this does really help, because like, you know, when you feel sick, you're like, I feel so sick, and you like really work yourself up, it doesn't help. Like, positive thinking can help to a certain degree. Like, it can't heal you, but it can help a little bit with some things. So I was still in pain, but I was like, you know, I'm going to feel better. Antibiotics are going to start working soon. I'm going to feel better. I'm going to feel better. It gets to Wednesday night. I am up all night. The pain is just so bad. On and off, I had like 10 minutes sleep here, 15 minutes sleep here. It's 5 a.m. I'm just like running around the house trying to drink as much water as possible, feeling miserable. My doctor's opens at 7, so I went, I had a bath at 6 a.m. because the heat, you know, just kind of helps everything. And then, I mean, you frequently need a pee, so if I'm laying in the bath, like, I'll just fucking pee in the bath instead of, you know, getting up, especially because my bedroom's at the front of the house and my toilet is at the very back. My house is very long, so I was like, fuck this, like, just lay there. So I drove to the doctor's. I was crying while driving to the doctor's. I've been crying all night, so I was just feeling so miserable, in so much pain. I get to the doctor's right when they open, and I'm like, look, you know, I have a UTI. I found out at the start of the week. It's just getting so much worse. It's like unbearable at this point. And I'm like very upset at like talking to him. So he pulls up and sees if my results are back, and they are not back yet. So he calls up Dorovich, which are the people who do the pathology for test results and stuff. So he calls them up and he asks them, you know, are they back, and they just haven't sent them through yet. They're back, like the first half is back, so the part that says I have a UTI is back, which is obvious, like we already knew that, but they didn't have the cultures back to identify which bacteria yet. So the doctor was like, oh, you're just gonna have to go home and like come back later. I can't change your antibiotics right now because it'd just be a guessing game. And I just start bawling my eyes out. I'm like, the pain is so bad. It's all through my stomach. It's all in my back. The pain is just unbearable. Literally bawling my eyes. It's unbearable. It's unbearable. I can't, like, I can't go home right now. I need, like, something needs to be done. It's just horrific. And he's like, okay, lay on the table, touches my stomach a bit, sit down, bawling my eyes out still. He's like, if the pain's that bad, go to hospital. And I'm like, okay then. So I ask him if he can write me a note for triage, because I've had the doctors before send me to hospital, and they write a note for triage, so you can give it to triage, so they've got like the record of what's been going on and like why you're being sent there, and it can kind of help fast track all the stuff in the emergency room. And he's like, why should I do that? And I'm like, just to help triage so that they know what the go is. Anyway, he finally gives me this begrudgingly, and I drive home, bawling my eyes out the whole way driving home, and because I decided that I'd drive home and then I would get an Uber from my house to the hospital, because like the hospital's closer to my house than where I was before, and then I didn't know about parking and stuff, and he said that, you know, they'd probably give me some painkillers and stuff anyway, so I didn't want to like have my car to be driving. So I do that. When I'm waiting for my Uber, I'm looking at the note that the doctor's written, and he has written that I have no abdominal pain, even though I had specified that I did. He also wrote the wrong allergies in my allergies section. He wrote allergic to rheumatoid, which I am, but I'm also allergic to cefaclor and amoxicillin, which he left off. And those are much worse allergies as well. Much worse. Anyway, so feel so sorry for my Uber driver, because I get in, I'm looking an absolute wreck. I've been bawling all night, all morning at this point. Don't say like a word to him other than when you get in and he's like, Amea, yep, are you going to Box Hill Hospital? Yep. Okay, so we go. And he's probably worried, like, is she visiting someone, or is she like really sick herself? Is she gonna make me sick? I don't know, but I was just like sat there like dying while we're driving there, because I felt like getting an ambulance was like maybe a bit OTT. just like going to the hospital. That's why I went to the doctors first. I would never go to hospital unless someone tells me to go to hospital. So I'm one of those people who's just like, I feel like I'm being dramatic, but the pain was that severe. Anyway, I get to the hospital. The triage nurse was really lovely. All of that was fine. So eventually I get seen by the doctor. I tell him about the UTI that I had all week and about how it's gotten worse and the pain's now in my back as well, and that I'm nauseous. And he said that that's pretty much textbook kidney infection. At a fever, 100% a bad, severe kidney infection. Without a fever, you know, a bad kidney infection, but not like severe, like where they need to give you IV antibiotics or anything. So it's like, I can't change your antibiotics though, because I just don't know what's wrong. And I was begging him, please, can you please call up Dorovich? They'll have my results at some point today. Like, I don't want to go home until I know, because I cannot cope with this. The pain is just so severe. So he got me some painkillers, and sat me back in waiting room and chased up my test results for me. Then eventually he comes back and is like, look, we've got your test results back. We know what antibiotics to give you. One of them's cefaclor, which you're allergic to, and then the other one's, what is it? The other one is macrodantin. So he's like, we'll get some macrodantin, and I start crying though again, because I'm like, I'm allergic to all these antibiotics. I've never had macrodantin before. I don't know if I'm going to react to this. I'm really scared to go home alone. And it's like, oh, well, we don't have any in ER. It's not a common antibiotic. We don't usually give it out, so we don't have any here at the moment. But if you want to go fill the scripts, you can come back and sit in the waiting room, and if you have a reaction, like, I'm working here all day. And I just start bawling again, and I'm like, is there any way you can give me IV antibiotics, because the pain is so severe. I can't wait for pills to kick in. Like, I cannot go like another day with this pain and how it is. And he's like, yeah, the pain's worse because you've been, on the wrong antibiotics all week. I am absolutely terrified to take these new antibiotics and to go home. And it's like, well, what's your reaction when you're allergic to antibiotics? Because most people say they're allergic to antibiotics and they get an upset stomach, which is normal. When I explain my reaction to antibiotics to doctors, they suddenly take me seriously. I get a rash on my body, I get itchy skin, my lips swell up and blister, and my throat starts to swell as well. I can still breathe, but that's because, obviously once you have that kind of reaction, you avoid doing it again. But the more exposures you have to something you're allergic to, the worse it can actually get. So as soon as I tell them that, they're like, okay, fair enough. But the way medication reactions work is sometimes you can have the reaction like straight away. With antibiotics, it can also happen after like 3 to 5 days. But it will be very sudden. It's just suddenly like kind of hits your body, and that reaction will happen, which is what happens with me. So I'm just like really scared to go home, and it's like, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to stay here all week then? I'm like, no, I'm just scared. So he asked me, like, do you have anyone who can come look after you? What about family? And I'm like, my mum's in hospital too. And he's like, any other family? I'm like, no. Like, not everyone has huge families, okay? Then it's like, what about friends? I'm like, my friends are working and they live far away, and like they're not gonna come, just like sit with me because of whatever, So I'm bawling. It's so like freaking hysterically bawling. This doctor's just so awkward. He just like comes and like hands me some tissues, and then slowly backs out of the room and like disappears for about half an hour. When he comes back, he says he still hasn't been able to chase down any of the antibiotics for me to have there under their supervision, so I'm just going to have to go to the chemist and fill them myself. And they also give me a script for the painkillers, because you can't take Ural with these specific antibiotics because they cancel each other out. And obviously the Ural helps with the pain of a UTI and kidney infection. So yeah, got the painkillers. I'm a freaking mess still at this point. Like, it's not I'm just not happy. Like, I'm not living for it at all. I didn't want to bother anyone. I knew that Steph would probably come look after me, but she had her dog at the vet that day, and I'd spoken to her the night before because she said she had to take him in to get these tests done, and he'd have to stay there all day, and they might have to put him under to do some of the tests, and he's an older dog, so she was really upset, so I didn't want to bother her. But when she found out, she's like, yeah, look, I've got a meeting that I have to go to, but then as soon as the meeting's done, I'm going to come, like, I'll leave work early and come see you. So that started to make me feel better, knowing that she would come to look after me. And this doctor was fine, but he was just like, not very compassionate, but doctors don't have to be compassionate, but he was just making me feel like I was being an idiot for being scared about having an allergic reaction. Obviously, based on my other reactions, like your lips, if your lips are swelling up, that's very close to your throat swelling up, and if that happens when I'm living home alone, like, you can die because you can't breathe. So I'm like just hysterical, and because I feel like fear of pain is also a very real thing, I was terrified of the pain coming back. Since I'd spoken to Steph, she suggested that I ask the doctor for IV antibiotics, so that they'd start working faster. So I asked the doctor if he could give me the antibiotics IV, like intravenously, rather than taking the pills, so that they would start to work faster. And he said, no, that's just not necessary, these will be fine. And I'm like, but look, I've just been getting so much worse all week, I can't wait however long for pills to start kicking in. And it's like, nah, we can't do it unless you're vomiting and like unable to keep down the pills, because it's just not necessary. Obviously, you know, they've got to save beds and stuff, they don't want to admit someone, but I was just hysterical because I just couldn't, like, the pain was like some of the worst pain I have ever experienced. And I have a pretty high pain threshold. Like, I might complain, like, you know, if you, like, you know, knock your arm into something, or like, you know, accident, something like that. But in terms of like actual medical pain, I have a very high pain threshold. So the fact that I was so terrified, like, I would class this pain that I was experiencing an 8 to 9 out of 10. If it was any higher, I would have passed out from the pain. It was just that severe. So yeah, he denied giving me the IV antibiotics. I have to go get my scripts filled myself. Luckily, there was a chemist at the hospital, at the other end of the hospital, so I had to walk through. I got my Uber home, and a couple hours later, Steph got here to, you know, come look after me. So I took some more of the medication when she got here. I took some more of the Panadine for the painkillers, and the antibiotics with food, and then after she left, I had a little nap. I was feeling okay, but maybe like a little bit nauseous at this point, and then the guy that I've been seeing came to visit me, and he like was going to come look after me earlier during the day, but because Steph was there, I was like, no, don't leave work, it's fine, but just, you know, I'm happy if you want to come, just like stop by and visit me. Anyway, he ended up looking after me all weekend long, which was so lovely. Like, I wasn't expecting that. Like, I thought he was just going to come, give me a hug, be like, I hope you feel better, and kind of leave. But he stayed and looked after me. I ended up being, after he got there, the nausea started getting a lot worse, and it got to a point where I straight up couldn't eat anything because I knew that I was going to throw up. Like, even the smell of food, the smell of anything, I was just like so severely sick. He gets like one of my scrunchies and like ties my hair up for me because I'm just sitting there with a sick bag, like ready to throw up, but also trying to eat. He's like bringing me crackers, he's making toast, like plain toast, toast with butter, just like seeing if I could eat anything just so I could have my other antibiotics. Eventually Steph calls me and she's like, look, are you getting worse? Have you been taking your temperature? If you have a temperature, you have to go back to hospital. And my temperature had actually been dropping. Like, it was normal, but it had been dropping. It got down to like nearly it got down to nearly 35, which is hypothermia. It was like 35.4, but like I was still okay. Like, I was still in like the safe range with temperatures and stuff. I'm really weird. It takes a lot for me to get a proper fever. So Steph calls, she's asking me that. I'm just being like, no, I'll be okay, it'll be okay. She's like, you sound like you should go back to hospital because I'm just so nauseous. And she's like, put the guy on, because they'd met once. I put him on, and he's like, yep, nah, I know. And they have like their little conversation, and it's like, okay, we're getting the home doctor to come see you now. We have to see if you're gonna need to go back to hospital. And I'm like, oh, fine. Like, I'm so miserable at this point. I'm like, just whatever, just do whatever. So I sit there for ages. We're waiting for the home doctor to come. Eventually the home doctor comes, and the guy I'm seeing answers the door, and the home doctor's really weird with this guy. And I'm guessing maybe because he's like big and tattooed. I didn't actually think that. I was like, why would he be weird? But then he explained it to me that sometimes people just get weird about it. So the home doctor comes in and is asking me all of these questions in front of this guy. And this guy doesn't care, and I don't care either. But the doctor makes everything so awkward. No, even though I was so extremely nauseous, I still couldn't help but laugh at the things that this doctor was doing because they were just so freaking awkward. So the home doctor comes in and we fill him in on like what's happened, like my UTI turning into a kidney infection, the medication, the nausea, the fact that I'm so nauseous I can't eat, I can't take my antibiotics. What do I do? Blah, 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 blah. And then I have the printout from the hospital that they gave me to give to my GP next time I see them, just so they've got a rundown for everything for my record. So I was like, oh, can you go get that for me? So the guy goes and gets it for me. I give it to the doctor, but it's in a pile with my other medical stuff because I got printouts of my STD results from the other day. So the doctor starts looking at them, and then he gets to the STD ones, and he awkwardly mouths at me, why? Like, why? And I'm like, oh, they were just from last week. I was just being safe. And he's like, okay. Like, really, making this just really awkward. Like, and they were dated, from like the week before. Anyway, whatever. Then he has to start asking me some questions. So he asks, like, is there any chance that you could be pregnant? I'm like, no, not pregnant. He's like, okay, well, when was your last period? And I don't remember. Like, I don't remember things like this. Also, being on the pill, I often skip my period. So I'm sitting there feeling sick, just staring at the doctor for about a good 30 seconds. And then finally the guy I'm seeing answers for me because he remembers, whereas, like, I just didn't remember. And the doctor's like, okay. And then he's like, so there's no chance you could be pregnant. And I'm like, no, like, I'm not pregnant. And he asks, like, well, you know that, like, you're on antibiotics, because I've been on the other antibiotics all week. It's like, you know that they make the pill ineffective. And I'm like, yeah, no, I know that. And he's like, but so when's the last time that you and I knew that he was asking when's the last time you had sex, but for some reason he was just so awkward. He couldn't even, like, he kind of like whispered sex, like just like gently whispered it. And I was just like, I don't know if it's because he was just really awkward, or maybe he felt intimidated or embarrassed because there was the other guy there. But at the same time, this is a medical professional. He turns to the guy and is like, can I ask in private? And I'm like, no, it's fine. And I tell him the last time I had sex, and it was before I'd even started that course of antibiotics, because obviously I've been sick all week anyway. So I was like, look, I haven't anyway, so, like, no, like, that's not it. And I feel like doctors always are like, are you pregnant? If you're a female, you're going to get asked if you're pregnant like a million times, or if there's any chance you could be pregnant like a million times. And he's just so, like, everything he did was just so awkwardly done. Anyway, he was just not sure what I was asking for, the doctor, because he's like, you need to stop taking your painkillers because they'll be masking a fever, and we need you to have a fever so that you can go back to hospital and you can get IV antibiotics, because you should be on IV antibiotics right now. And I'm like, again, scared of the pain. I'm like, what do you mean stop taking my painkillers? The pain is so severe. It's like, yeah, but it's making you nauseous as well, and it can be masking a fever. I was like, what about Panadol? No, all gonna mask a fever. It's like, don't take anything. As soon as, like, you get a fever, head back to the hospital. And I'm like, no, like, I'm just so scared. And I asked him if there's anything he could do for the nausea. So he gave me a shot for the nausea, because I'd already taken some of the anti-nausea pills that I'd had and they just weren't helping. The first lot kind of helped, but then the second one I took later that day just was not helping. I was still getting worse. So he asked me if I wanted the shot in my arm or in my butt, and I asked for him to put it in my butt cheek because I'd had it before and I know that like it's fine. So I lay on the bed and I pull my pants down so my bum's out. The guy I'm seeing sitting on the ottoman there, just sitting there, just chill, like, you know, completely fine. And the doctor's just making it really awkward. He's just like awkwardly like swabbing my bum like with the alcohol wipe and then like injecting it. And then after he finished, because I'm just laying on my stomach with my bum out, he grabs the blanket from my bed and he just awkwardly like pulls it over my bum, just like not even my full bum, just like 3/4, places it over my bum and walks away. And even though I was so sick, this was just so funny to me. I just start laughing hysterically. I'm just like, and I'm like looking at the guy that I'm seeing, like to see if he'd react, but he's just sitting there obviously concerned for me. The doctor's just like standing there being awkward, and I'm just like laughing so much because he's just made it so much more awkward. Like at this point we've all seen my ass, it's fucking sticking out for everyone. Like don't awkwardly cover it, it makes it worse. Like just leave it or tell me like, okay, you can put your pants up now. No, just awkwardly pull the blanket over my bum. And it was so fucking hilarious. Like I wish I had that on camera because the way that he did it was literally the most awkward thing of my life. Like it was so fucking hilarious. Like anyway, the doctor leaves. He leaves like all of the medical waste other than the actual syringe, like he leaves it all just like littered around my bedroom, and we're like, that's fucking weird too, right? Anyway, the anti-nausea stuff starts to kick in, so I'm able to eat a couple like corn cakes and have my medication. The guy that I'm seeing fed my dogs for me. Eventually we went to sleep. Had about 4 hours sleep and he got up to go to work, but he fed me again. He fed the girls for me. I took my antibiotics and went back to bed because I have to take 4 antibiotics a day. So many antibiotics, and all with food. So I go back to sleep, wake up. Anyway, this guy ends up looking after me all weekend as well, which was absolutely like really lovely. So I'm like very grateful for that as well, because I was just miserable, and as soon as I started feeling like the tiniest bit better, I'd try and like clean my house a bit, and then I'd feel worse. So then he'd like clean up something for me because he knew that like it was agitating me how messy everything was getting. Anyway, that was all my funny doctor stories, and just like, I don't know why the doctors make it so awkward. I think when you see a male doctor as a female and start crying, they just don't know what to do, so they just kind of like awkwardly back away and they just don't know how to handle it, which is just so funny. Anyway, that was my story time. That's what's been going on in my life. The reason I'm feeling so miserable today is I think my arthritis is just flaring up from being sick, so that's why I wanted to just lay in bed and tell you this little story. Steph suggested that I tell you this because she thought it would be interesting, kind of like a little life update, mini story time thing about the like fucking doctors and stuff. The funny thing is though that the first doctor, like the morning before I went to hospital, the fact that he sent me away when I had back pain after having a UTI that was getting worse, that's what annoys me the most, because the day before that, when I started getting back pain, Steph's like, I think you've got a kidney infection. And seriously, Steph has diagnosed me with stuff that has been wrong with me before actual doctors have. Like Dr. Steph in the house, like she the real MVP, like she knows what's going on. I think she needs like a patient liaison kind of job somewhere in the medical industry because she's just so on top of it all. I'm really grateful. I felt so bad because when I was in hospital crying about having no one to look after me, and then everyone came through for me, like absolutely everyone came through, and you know, everyone was, even like my friends from interstate were like, I wish I was there to come look after you. Other people who found out, who I'm not super close with, like friends but not like good friends, they were like, oh, you should have let me know, I would have come taken care of you, let me know if you need anything. And it just made me feel like so, like, I don't know, just like my heart was just really warm to know all the people who, like, you know, care about me and stuff, and who are like willing to just like, you know, drop what they're doing to come take care of me. Especially Steph, when she had her own stuff going on with her dog at the time, and like the guy I've been seeing when it hasn't, you know, been like, you know, that long really, like to offer to like drop work and come get me and then spend the whole weekend with me, like looking after me. It was just really, really sweet. Just the whole thing was just really, I just felt really lucky after that weekend. Anyway, at this point I'm just starting to ramble, but yeah, anyway. I hope you enjoyed today's story time. Thumbs up, subscribe, all the fun stuff. Again, keep an eye out for my next story time video that's coming during Vlogmas that will have Steph in it. Let's just say it's related to an ex. There's your little teaser. So yeah, alright. We'll see you tomorrow, guys. Bye.
Jingle bell.